Jerry Trimble.
Yeah, Jerry Trimble was a bad motherfucker.
Golden Boy. That's what they call Atlanta's Jerry Trimble.
He hails from Vancouver, British Columbia. Manny, the school teacher, Sobral. Manny Sobral.
Welcome back to Two World Champs. Manny, what'd you think of the fights tonight, brother?
Pretty impressive tonight, eh, Jerry?
Yeah,
them
it was
guys.
a night of violence.
Big time. And, Canelo proved that he is probably, as they quote, pound for pound, maybe the best.
It was like a brick of concrete, just boom, that was just firing out. And it was like he was hitting a heavy bag. He'd go in and he didn't sit down between the rounds.
I know. Wasn't that amazing?
That's looking at the guy going, I ain't tired, motherfucker.
Now that takes a guy's will to win away. And now the psychological ploy of that, you can't beat it. And the way Canelo, like you say, he's like a freight train, man. He comes forward, but he's not so easy to hit, man, because he's rolling those punches. He's rolling with everything, and he's impenetrable, and he rolls with it. He pulls back. He rolls with his head. Like, he's got so many great defenses, eh?
He was smooth. He was so smooth. And somewhat, a smaller guy fighting a taller guy needs to get inside, and he was fighting a perfect fight. The first round, I gave it to Smith, but he was a little bit busier. But after that, Canelo got busier, and he got stronger and stronger and more relentless. And I felt sorry for Callum Smith. I really did. He was getting beat up.
Because Callum Smith, every time he threw a punch, man, he was getting banged up back. And what's a great thing about Canelo, it took him like that one round, and then he snuck his front foot in. I don't know if you noticed, but they were banging feet every once in a while because, the way you cut a guy's distance away is you get your front foot close because then you can reach him. But, he's back, but his front foot's there, so he can just lean in and use his waist. And that's such a fast pendulum that goes forward and back. And Canelo could get in and out so quickly. And then every time, he'd pull the punches, and then punches would just go right by him. And then after a while, Callum Smith didn't know what to do, really. Like, what do I do? Throw a hook? And then near the end of the fight, he was setting Canelo up for a left hook, but Canelo had already figured it out. And then they were sort of high-fiving each other. And near the end, they were talking to each other.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, it was funny. Canelo threw that. It was beautiful. He came in. I think he came in with a fake jab and boom, and went up with that uppercut. Whoa! Oh, yeah. I was like, that's nice. That was nice. He was just powerful. He was. Yeah, Smith was. I give him all respect that he's a world champion, but he was out of his league. Canelo was. Wow, man, he was powerful.
Canelo's just one step ahead, it seems like that Floyd Mayweather match that he lost, well, it was rather close, but he lost the match. That taught him so much about boxing, about the intricacies of it, and how to take a guy's will away. And you take a guy's will away by making him miss and then making him pay. And man, did he do that. And he did it over and over again. And you got to give it to Callum Smith, man. Because around the 9th round, I thought, man, this could be it. He's getting pounded. Yet he came back and tried his best. And got to give him a lot of credit for hanging in for the 12 rounds.
Yeah, and in his corner was, they were asking him, I'm going to call the fight. I'm going to call the fight. And he's like, no, don't call him. Yeah, I bet he's hurting right now. He's in bed.
That's a true fighter. Well, did you see his arm when he walked out? His arm was all swollen up, eh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that might be a torn bicep from a punch. Can you imagine tearing a bicep from a punch? That just goes to show how powerful this Canelo really is. Like he's got some intent in all those shots, like those uppercuts, those hooks, those right hands. He's a complete fighter. It's not like he's a left-handed dominant or a right-handed dominant. He's a both-handed dominant, man.
It's pretty impressive. Pretty dangerous.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, what's next for him, right? Like the night before Triple G fought, and that's what they're trying to clash those two together for the third time, right? So it'd be interesting. I don't think Triple G has a chance because he's 38 years old and going downhill, whereas Canelo's 30 years old going uphill. So I don't really sure what's next, what could be next for Canelo. I mean, there's no real other match that can make him the type of money that Triple G can make him, because they'll build that match up as, because Triple G, even though it was a draw, a lot of people thought, including myself, thought that he won the first match, whereas the second match could have gone Canelo's way. So this would be kind of like the rubber match.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. Boxing is a funny thing, but I don't think it was a coincidence they put the Triple G match the night before from Florida, and then the following night Canelo fights. I don't think that was a coincidence. I mean, that was purposely done to promote it, I believe. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the next big promotion. That Matchroom seems like it's one of the top promoters in the world now from England there at that Eddie Hearn. The reason I think it was kind of a setup to build the promotion too is they didn't put like a knockout artist or a great boxer in against Triple G on Friday night. They put in a Saramenta, his name was, and he was 23-0, I believe, with 5 knockouts. So he didn't really have a puncher's chance. But what it did is it made Triple G look spectacular because he was the type of opponent that was there to fight, but it couldn't really hurt you. So it's like, not to take anything away from Saramenta, but he was kind of like a moving punching bag. And Triple G was able to get hooks off, get uppercuts off, and look really good doing it. He looked powerful last night. So I think that's part of the plan is, oh yeah, well, look at Triple G. He's the best fight he's had in years, and Canelo just beat the best super middleweight in the world. So let's clash those two together for the rubber match, you know? And I think Triple G looked good, man. Triple G, you know, he executed well. What do you think, Hugo?
Yeah, man. Well, again, I think I talked to you about it this morning, and he was just overmatched entirely. Like, I mean, they made him stop the fight after the 7th round because he just didn't win a single round. He dropped him 4 times in that fight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess my next question is what's next for can anyone beat Canelo? I mean, Jerry, was this your first time seeing Canelo fight?
First time ever, man. And
what did you think about him?
He was brutal. He was brutal.
Yeah, right.
He was pretty brutal. His punches were extremely powerful and fast. He was hard to hit. He was elusive inside. And again, when you fight a taller guy, you got to get inside. And he was beautiful and brilliant how he was able to maneuver his way inside. And he was inside, and he was slipping and moving and bang, and he'd hit. But the thing with Smith, you know, Canelo would go in and he'd throw 1, 2, 3, and then Smith would he wouldn't do anything. And you know, you can't stand there and bang with someone like Canelo. The guy's too powerful. Too damn powerful.
You got the Charlo brothers. You got Demetrius Andrade, who was there as well. Do you see these guys beating Canelo there, Manny?
I don't think so. I mean, Canelo has an answer for pretty much anyone, and he's, you know, like Jerry's saying, he's a powerful, powerful man, and you know, like that, you know, when a guy throws a punch and then you can't, you know, you throw a punch and you can't hit the guy because he's so elusive, yet you're getting punched back as you're throwing. Pretty soon you're not going to be throwing punches. Just like, you know, Liam Smith, even though he threw a few punches, he didn't have intent on those punches. Yeah. He was so cautious of getting hit back, right? And you know, like the Charlos, you know, they have never competed against a guy like a Canelo that could really crack like that or make them miss. So, I mean, like I said, you know, I believe it was 2013. So 7 years ago, Canelo has learned so much since that Floyd Mayweather match. Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't be the boxer he is today had he not had that match, because Floyd is a master of making you miss. And now Canelo has become a master of making you miss. Like that guy, he is one smooth operator. And I don't see the Charlos or Demetrius Andrade. No, not over 12 rounds, man. Maybe the first round until Canelo gets his groove, and then it's all over.
He's probably crazy. One of the most powerful fighters I've ever seen. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, he's only 30 years old. He's got 54 wins now.
That's his 54th win. Yeah.
Like 54. he's been pro since he was 15. Like, how are you like just getting into your prime and you've got this much experience already? It's crazy. Yeah. I honestly don't see anyone beating this guy. You know,
I don't see it.
Yeah, like you fought Floyd at like 21. Yeah. That was so long ago.
I know.
Yeah. It's crazy.
There's a light heavyweight named Artur Beterbiev,
Oh,
who's
right.
a pretty spectacular light heavyweight that lives in Montreal, who's a Ukrainian dude, but he might have a chance just because he's got the size and the power, but I don't really see anyone else. I mean, look what he did to Kovalev. He just destroyed Kovalev.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's one tough hombre, and he appears to be living a clean life, so he's not going to go by the wayside like some of these other great fighters have done.
Yeah.
You can see the fearlessness in his eyes as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there was no fear in this guy's eyes. I mean, for him not to sit down during the round and to come out, and he just, oh man, there was just fearlessness that was pretty freaking awesome. Yeah. And to just go on and just tag and just whoom, just like he was hitting a heavy bag. And be able to move and just, be so elusive. I was pretty damn impressed.
He's just coming right at him the whole time too.
Yeah.
Right, walked him down.
He walked him down really good, and he's always like, if you watch that fight slow, you just watch how he sneaks his front foot in. He's always sneaking his front foot in, and he's always coiling his body so he can uncoil the other way, right? So it's just like a coil action. So he's coiling up, and then he uncoils because as he's slipping the punches, his trunk is coiling one way, and then it uncoils the other way, and he comes back with a hard shot. And he's got that so down packed. Like his body is so coordinated that it's not his arms punching, it's his whole body punching. Yeah, exactly. Just like that, doesn't it?
Body, man.
Exactly. Isn't it just like that?
He's connected. His whole body's connected.
Yeah. From foot to head. Yeah, from his feet to his head, man. It turns, and he's learned his trade, and he's learned it well.
We got to give props to our boy Russ Anber.
Yeah.
Take care of the eyes, man. Whoa, yeah.
He was there.
Yeah, we were looking out for him.
Yeah.
It's too bad. I wanted Colin Smith to win just to.
So did I.
For Russ,
I did
what I mean.
No, I did too, man. But
and I did even more when he walked into the ring and he had the word autism on the back of his jacket. I want this guy to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, he supports it big time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would have been nice, but damn, Canelo's fucking good.
So where does Colin Smith go from here? Did we talk about that? Did you guys talk about that?
No,
Back
we
to
didn't.
England.
I was listening to the after fight, and he was talking about probably going up to light heavyweight because he can fill out a little bit and go up to light heavyweight because he looks rather weak because Canelo was just walking through him, so maybe just he had to lose quite a bit of weight, and he was maybe a bit dehydrated. Who knows? But he can fill out a little bit and become a light heavyweight, cruiserweight, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He took the fight only 4 weeks, right? 4 weeks notice he took this fight.
Yeah, that's what,
yeah.
Apparently, he was training for another fight, and then they called him on this, and
okay.
That's what I heard. But still, only 4 weeks to prepare for Canelo Alvarez is a big ask.
Oh man.
Yeah, and didn't he broke the CompuBox record for most punches in
Jabs.
a fight?
Jabs.
800
Jabs.
Just
Just
jabs.
jabs. Yeah.
800 jabs. I'm like, where were they?
Yeah, I know. He wasn't using them, man. But because Canelo wasn't letting him, because Canelo was countering him, right? And that takes so much out of you, man.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. But
Yeah, he was so much faster than Callum Smith.
yeah.
Yeah, he was. Just speed kills, right? In any sport, though, you do hockey, basketball, anything. If you can make a move on a guy, like give him a little fake and go somewhere else and outspeed him, you're on top, man. It's the speed kills.
Can you explain to me, who doesn't know as much about boxing, like the weight classes, and was Smith's belt the only one on the line, or his belts because it was his weight class?
Yeah, well, Smith is a super middleweight, meaning he's 168 pounds. There's too many weight classes in boxing, as you know. But and Canelo, 168 pounds, is super middleweight, and that weight division is one of the newer weight classes. I think it was first came along maybe in the 90s or something, because they used to go from middleweight 160 to 175, and then they were thinking, oh, that's 15 pounds too much weight differential, so let's make a weight class in the middle. So they decided to go to 168. It was in the early 1990s or something they started it, and so yeah, Caleb Smith was the WBC and I think IBF champion. So, he had 2 of the belts, but the belts don't mean it that much. Like he's considered the best guy at 168. Like, like BoxRec is a website that ranks all the fighters. They have no real ties to anyone, so they rank him number 1. I agree with their rankings, and they ranked Canelo number 1 as a middleweight, which is 160. But I think Canelo, and he talked about it a bit afterwards in the interview, that he had a bit of trouble. He has a bit of trouble making 160. He's a solid guy. He's solid as a rock, and so I think he's going to stay at the 168-pound weight class from when he was talking about, and maybe even boxes up to light heavyweight at times too. But like Hugo was saying too, is like there's the Charlo brothers at 168. There's this Demetrius Andrade. He's I think a 160-pounder, but he can go up to 168, and everyone's going to go to where the money is, and the money is Canelo Alvarez. So. There's a lot of weight classes. I mean, it goes from light flyweight, which is 106 Levante, to flyweight, which is 112, and then there's the bantamweight at 118, and then there's junior featherweight 122. There's featherweight 126. There's junior lightweight 130. There's lightweight 135. There's junior welterweight 140. There's welterweight 147. There's junior middleweight 154. There's middleweight 160. So it goes by every 5 or 6 pounds, all the way to heavyweight. And now they're trying to make a weight class because they brought out the cruiserweight division again about the 90s as well, because they thought from 175, which is light heavyweight, to over 175 was always heavyweight, right? Mm-hmm. So like guys like Rocky Marciano were only like 189, and then Joe Louis only weighed about 200. But now the heavyweights of today, they're all like 240, like the Klitschko's and the Lennox Lewis's and the George Foreman's are all like 225, 230. So what they did is they developed the cruiserweight division that went between heavyweight and light heavyweight. So the cruiserweight division is 201 and under. For 175 to 201 is cruiserweight. And now the new talk is that they're going to make another weight class that goes from 201 to 220, and then 220 and above will be heavyweight. But between 201 and 220 is going to be Bridger weight.
Bridger weight.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. And a lot of the reasoning for all these different weight classes and all these different titles is because like the WBC, the WBA, the IBF, and blah, 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 so on and so forth, they all get sanctioning fees whenever they sanction a title fight. So everybody wants a piece of the pie. There you go, Jerry. Money. That's what it breaks down to. And then it's, back in the day when boxing was really big, like in the not the 70s, like the 50s, 60s, 70s and stuff. Yeah, there was only bantamweight. There's no junior ones, but there's bantamweight, there's featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, like 6 or 7 weight classes, right? And I think that's the way it should be. That's the way the UFC does it, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. What is it? It's flyweight, featherweight, flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and then heavyweight.
Yeah. So very similar to
very simple
to when the boxing was huge in the 50s, 60s and things. Yeah.
Even what's weird is that the names in UFC, so the weight classes, the actual weight of a featherweight is 145, and in boxing it's not, right?
Yeah, exactly. 145. It's actually in boxing it's 147. It's welterweight.
Welterweight's 170 in UFC.
Correct.
So in kickboxing, light welterweight was 147. Yeah. I
was watching like Canelo and Callum Smith before they were coming. What's that like, man? Like that's got to be nerve wracking. Like,
well, it isn't. It's like you're worried because, like, I knew you sort of the only thing you're worried about, man. I hope I don't trip over my left foot or something and fall as I get into the ring or something. Like you're worried sort of about weird crap like that, which will never happen. But then, you're just you're not necessarily worried about. Like I never really got worried about her getting hurt. I was more worried about, man. I hope, I hope I don't get totally demolished, because you never know really exactly what your opponent's going to be like to in the actual fact, right? Yeah. So you just want to be able to stay in the fight and win. So I was, for myself, as I got more and more into it, I'd visualize a lot of stuff and, try to go through it before it actually even happens. So you try to soothe your nerves and everything, and also you go out and execute, because whatever your mind can think, your body can achieve it. So that's what I tried to do, and it changed a lot of things. Because I can remember, like I said, I think I told you guys already, the first fight I was thinking about, man, can I just hide under the bed and no one will find me? Because I didn't want to go out there, man. That was my first match, and
oh my God,
I was scared to death.
That was your first fight?
Yeah, but not scared to death about getting hurt, just about getting totally demolished, like not really knowing what you're going into, right? That's what I can remember. And after a while, then you learn that it's almost like going for like job interview or something like that, because you're worried really about, okay, am I going to say something wrong more than anything? And same thing, am I going to do something wrong that's going to make me look foolish?
I try to develop, before I go into the ring, hating this guy so much and wanting to just a relentless hate towards the individual ring. I mean, I was an angry guy back in the day. My first fight, was with my best friend, who was the AAU lightweight champion, and I started fighting, and it was for the Kentucky State title, and the fight came up because he was going around to the clubs bad mouthing me, saying, Trimble, he's a kickboxer. Yeah, kickboxing, that's bullshit. That's crap. And AAU's the way to go. And I'm like, dude, and this is my best friend. I'm like, dude, I said, so I'm hearing all this shit you're going around saying this about me, man. I said, you know what? Let's put your money where your mouth is. And he goes, okay. When you want to do it. And I said, okay, I'll get it set up. So there was a boxing match that was coming up with a bunch of boxing matches on the line, and then they put up for the Kentucky State Championship, and they set it up with me and my ex-best friend. I tried to connect him with again on social media. He didn't return anything. But in it was an ego thing, and we fought, and I TKO'd him in the 4th round. And every time after a fight, I would write down the damage that I would do. I'd have a little fight diary of the damage that I would do to each opponent. And I gave him 15 stitches of black eye and a busted eardrum. And I was like,
holy
yeah, I was enraged. And it was because he was my best friend, and he went around just dogging me and telling people shit about me. And I was like, man, so yeah, those are the good old days.
And that was your first fight?
That was my first fight, man.
And that was boxing or kickboxing?
Yeah, kickboxing.
Okay. And you said he was, what was the
He was the Amateur Athletic Union in martial arts. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a whole different style of fighting. So he just jumped into the ring and with it was with gloves and the pads and everything. And he went his style. I'm like, okay, you want to do your shit? I'll do my shit.
What's the difference?
We just went at it. What's that?
What's the difference?
AAU is there's no punching to the head. It was the amateur. It was like in the Olympics. That's what it was. Okay. It was the Olympics, but it was the Amateur Athletic Union in the Olympics for martial arts, and that's what he did. But he said that was better than kickboxing, and it was just egos, I mean, looking back at it now, But that started it. After that, I'm like, hell, I'm okay with this. I said, I'm going to Atlanta. I'm going for the World Championship. And then, that was it. And the rest is history.
Awesome.
Crazy.
Did you guys catch that heavyweight fight on the boxing card between Frank Sanchez and Julian Fernandez? Yeah. Did you watch that, Manny?
Yeah, I did.
What did you think of that? Yeah,
they were saying that the guy looked like a MMA type fighter, Fernandez, because he had the shorts. They weren't boxing shorts; they were MMA shorts, and I thought he was awkward, and the Sanchez, they were talking big about him, what a great amateur he was, but he didn't look that good to me. But I mean, Fernandez was a tough guy that kept coming, right? Like and he fought MMA, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
It was
funny.
entertaining.
At one point, he was against the ring or the ropes, and then this guy was just hammering him, Sanchez. And Fernandez is like, "Come on, let's do this! Like, let's
Yeah,
do
and he
this.
put his hands down. and
Come
everything.
on, hit me again!" And then the next round, he's like, "All right," just decks him, and he knocked him out. He went right through the ropes, off the fucking ring. He was
Yeah.
KO.
And
They had
then-
to drag him into the ring
I
to like
know.
help him out.
Well, he was lucky that the stairs that go down,
Yeah,
the stairs for the doctor that were there,
Yeah.
if they had not been there, he would have fallen right off the ring because the ring was he was just right out of the ring. Yeah.
yeah, he was. Yeah, you know that Sanchez. That's who Canelo was training with. Preparing
Really?
for this fight. So he was
Sparring with that guy?
he was sparring with that Sanchez guy for this
120
Callum Smith.
pounder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, well, that's crazy.
Yeah, I guess it's just a bigger heavy bag for him, right?
Yeah, well, you
The
know,
moving heavy bag in a
Totally.
way.
yeah. So I mean, obviously, fighting Callum would be no problem, right? Fighting,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I didn't realize that there he was training with that guy, but
yeah. They were mentioning that, and then I searched it up, and I was like, Jesus Christ, he was, and it looks like Canelo was putting in some work on him, big time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Must have been.
Yeah.
I hope they paid him well for taking all the punches for sparring.
Did you watch any of the UFC, Manny?
No, I didn't watch any of it. No.
Jerry, what did you think?
Wonderboy. I've seen a lot of highlights, but haven't seen a full fight of that guy, and I was pretty impressed. I was pretty impressed. People talked about how hard he was to fight. I get it, because he would constantly move. He'd stick. He'd hit, stick, and move, and he'd go in, bang, bang, and he'd get out, and he'd move to the side. He'd go in, bang, bang, and he'd hit, and then a leg would just come out of nowhere, pop up. And the cool thing about him is the reason why his kicks are so effective is because he came from a martial arts, a karate background. You know, and when you come from a traditional background, you learn how to use your body, you learn how to use your hips, you learn how to throw those kicks up at different angles. And it's funny because they're watching some of the other fighters fight, when they would throw the kicks up, they'd throw the kick up, and then after the kick would hit or be deflected, boom, their foot would be relaxed. So it was really strange. It was like, what? But when you would see a Wonderboy fight and throw a kick, he'd throw a kick up, bang, you'd see that foot controlled. You'd see it still controlled. Oh, it was a joy to watch him fight, because he reminded me a lot of me fighting. It was
Definitely.
I was like, damn, no, he was really impressive. He was really impressive. I think he's 38 years old. Yeah, I met him. I met him last year at the Battle of Atlanta. Joe Corley's the Battle of Atlanta. It was a huge karate tournament that's held every year. And nice guy. Just met him briefly. And yeah, it's, you know, they're like, you know who that is? You know who that guy is? And I'm like, no. Who's the guy? They're like, he's the Wonderboy, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, and then after I left the Battle of Atlanta, I went back home. I Googled the guy, and I'm like, oh, that's who it was. Yeah. So he was extremely impressive, elusive. He's hard to hit. I mean, he had all the tools, all the weapons. It was funny though. You guys saw the fight, Levente and Hugo.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
It looked like those guys. It looked like him. It was Neil, right?
Jeff Neal. Yeah.
It looked like they were buddies. I was like, oh, it's so cute. They looked like they were friends. They were pals. There was one time where they were in there and they were against the octagon, and Neil dropped his mouthpiece, and they were fighting. Boom, and Wonderboy let him pick up his mouthpiece, put it back in, and then they went at it again. And then there was another time where it was funny. I was like, what? I told my wife, I said, honey, come. You know what I just saw? Wonderboy threw a spinning kick, fell down.
Yeah.
And usually, whoa, the guy's like, you know, right on him. And was it Wonderboy who fell? It was. I think it was Wonderboy.
I think he did. He threw a kick and he fell.
Yeah, he threw a spinning hook kick, and he fell. And Neil was like, okay, get up. I was like, oh. They were. It seemed like they were. It was kind of cool, but it was interesting.
That's something he does in all his fights almost. Like he's the nicest guy. I think he breaks records for the most hugs and high fives, and and he works with kids
I
just
love
like
the
just
guy.
like
I'm like,
like you do, and they really market it as he's the nicest guy in the game, right? But I wonder if that niceness sometimes in his title fights played to a disadvantage because of the killer instinct is perhaps lacking. I don't know, right? What do you think?
Yeah, you know what? When you're in that ring, man, I mean, it's okay to have good sportsmanship and be nice and respectful. Always be respectful, but when you're in there, it's balls out, all out. It's like, you know what? Fuck this. I came here to win it. Not be nice and chummy, even though after some of the fights I've had, I went out and partied with the guys that I fought. Became best friends after that. I even moved in. One of the guys I fought knocked out in the second round. We moved in, became roommates. but
That's after. That's after it's all
that's
done.
after, yeah. But in the ring,
yeah,
sure.
do or die, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to be respectful, but when you're in there, you know what, Levente, to your point, I mean, if he's going, he's going to be fighting for the title, and he's going for the for the big wigs. He needs to tone down that niceness a little bit when you're in the ring, but still be respectful. Always be respectful. Show the same respect that they give you. But I don't know.
What weight class is he?
170.
Welterweight.
170.
Okay, so 170.
170, yeah, and he's 30. He's 36, 38,
37.
37.
So
I'm like, man.
He had 2 title fights back to back against a really game opponent, Tyron Woodley, and the first one was a draw. And kind of how the fight went down was Wonderboy pretty much exactly like that, like the points just kind of winning. But in I think the 4th or 5th round, Tyrone got him with a right hand and dropped him and nearly finished him. And then they actually called that one a draw, right? And then they rematched, and it was virtually identical, the 2 fights.
I gotta agree with you what you're saying there. I am the second fight, the same thing. You're right. He got dropped again. But yeah, same thing. Just what you were saying, Jerry. Just he's in and out. He's so quick and he's so elusive, right? He's a really hard guy to train for. He's got that wide karate stance, right? And he's so good at utilizing. I always fear for him because he keeps his hands so low. So I always feel like that's why he's been dropped. Like that's the only time he's been dropped with Tyron Woodley. But yeah, I agree with Levente. I thought you could have given that fight to Wonderboy for sure. But like again, like sometimes it's like power punches, right? Okay, yeah, he landed the more severe blow. Maybe people saw that. Okay, well that was a big round for Tyron, right? So I don't know. It's hard to say. Like there should be more draws in MMA. Personally,
I think so too. Yeah. So Jerry, speaking of hands being low, is that necessary with that style? Does that come with it?
You know what? When I fought, there were times where I fought hands down, and time when I fought hands up. And I'd hear my mom in the audience, in the crowd, going, "Jared, get your damn hands up!" I'm like, as I watch the fight, I'm like, my mom's like, I said, "Mom, God, you gotta watch your mouth." She's like, "Well, you get your damn hands up." You know what? There's sometimes when I drop my hands, it's to bring these guys in. And I felt that, at times I was good enough and, to drop the hands and bring them in and sucker them in and then boom, counter and go at it. It just depends on how you train. When I trained, my trainer used to put me in the corner and say, "Drop your hands." He'd have sparring partners get in there and in front of me. I wouldn't get out of the corner, and they just fire shots, and I'm like, boom, trying to get out of the way. So when I got into the ring, I dropped my hands and I'd go at it. I think that's what he does. He drops his hands and he tries to sucker those guys in there because he's so fast. His reflexes are amazing, and again, a lot of his greatness, I think, is the fact that he studies karate. He studied Japanese karate, kempo. His family has a karate school, I think in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Yeah, his father, Ray Thompson, pretty heavy hitter in the martial arts world. But yeah, man, he lives, breathes, and sleeps and eats martial arts. And Yeah, I've watched some of his little online videos that he does teaching technique. Yeah, shit. The guy, he's 37. Is that what you said? 37.
I believe so, right?
I can
Yeah.
see him. Okay, I'm gonna make a prediction. I can see him soon. If he wins the world title in the UFC, if he gets that a little bit more, against his opponent, not so much nice guy in the ring, out of the ring, and again, but he looks like a freaking actor, man. It looks like I could see him in the movies. Like he's gonna be another guy like Bisping and shit, and what Keith Jardine and then Chuck Liddell sometimes in the movies. But I can see him in the films. The guy looks like he's like 20.
Yeah.
He does.
I'm like, yeah, Bisping and them were talking about. They were talking about if his corner I think it was. They said asked his corner people. They said, "Do you guys put makeup on him?" Because he looks like a kid. He's like, which is great, man. He doesn't look like a fighter, which is good. He's got movie star looks. So, yeah, I mean, he capitalized on it. That's why he's doing all these videos with his school and stuff, which is fantastic. I'm a Wonderboy fan now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
awesome,
think
man.
he's too nice, then something's going on, because you're one of the nicest people I know. So if you're even saying, because I notice it, but what do I know, right? If you're noticing it, then
It's like if I mean, you're nice until somebody pushes your buttons on the street, and you're nice out of the ring, but in the ring, man, I say no more Mr. Nice Guy. I'm sorry, that's my motto. That's no more. I mean, would you say, Manny, once you're in the ring? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
respectful, but
Yeah, exactly. You got to take care of business. If you hurt a guy, you don't get 10 seconds to finish him. You got that. You got to get him on him in that split second, man.
yeah.
And it changes though too. I don't know about you, Jerry, but you change. You're in a different mode set once you're inside a ring than when you're outside the ring.
So speaking of Wonderboy, he was the main event fighter, but the prelim main event fighter had Anthony Showtime Pettis with a spectacular performance, and he's a 155er lightweight, generally speaking. Sometimes he fights at welterweight, 170, and they paired them up a year, 2 years ago against Wonderboy because they're so very flashy. And Wonderboy is a one-round fight. Wonderboy was basically dominating, if I remember correctly. And then in the last 10 seconds or something like that, Showtime jumped off the cage and Superman punch KO'd him. First and only KO loss of Wonderboy's career. And then he was back now. Sorry?
Off the fence?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He kind of kicked off the fence and cracked him with a right hand. And it was a pretty spectacular finish from a smaller guy. And, it was interesting because I was listening to Pettis in some interviews before this fight, and he used to be a champion at 155 years ago, and he's kind of been on a losing streak, a lot of kind of decisions, but, close fights. He's won a couple here and there. I believe I can't remember if he won his last one before this or not, but anyways, he was talking about how he just started for the first time ever using a sports psychologist. So I was really interested, and he was just raving about it, how he feels like this new fighter and blah, 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 blah. And so I was really excited, anticipating this fight coming up. And then he didn't get the finish with that kick in the last round, Jerry. What did you think of that? Describe it to us. It was a masterpiece.
He did a back leg round kick, boom, back leg round kick, and then stopped, and then spinning hook kick.
Yeah.
Spinning hook kick. That's what started it off. The spinning hook kick kicked him at the top of the head, boom, kind of staggered him, and then he goes in and he finishes him off, which is, that was a beautiful spinning hook kick. But it was nice because he was an orthodox stance, and then bang, round kick, and then step back, and then went in with the spinning hook kick. It was beautiful. And then he followed up with a combination.
How hard is to pull off a move like that? Like a combination like that.
Well, what he did was, if you know what you're doing, it's not so hard. But his reflexes and reactions were so great that he was, like I said, you have to kick with the back leg, boom, have the back leg come back, and then do another spinning kick. Which is, if he did the forward leg round kick, the left leg forward, left leg kick, and then spinning, makes it a lot easier. But the fact that he did the back leg, boom, and then pulled the back leg all the way back, and then did the spinning kick, that was even more impressive. Yeah, I was like, son of a bitch. Yeah, that was nice. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful hit. But that's what it said. It hit him on the top of the head, and that kind of rocked him, and then went in. I thought it was gorgeous, gorgeous. And it's really nice to see these guys throw spinning kicks. It's nice to see these fighters when they do, and they start throwing these kicks. When they throw the kicks, and the kicks are effective, and they throw the kicks like they're supposed to be thrown more effectively. Because a lot of these guys, I see them throwing kicks. They'll throw a round kick that comes around. They'll throw it, and the foot will be flexed. And then once the foot hits, watch it. Next time you see a UFC fight, you see these guys fight, they'll throw the foot, and then boom, the foot's like, whoa, it's just dangling. They lose control of the foot, and they go right down. And then other guys would throw a round kick, and they would throw the round kick. The hips would be turned over, and then immediately turn the hips back, and then drop the foot, which is, I'm going, oh, that's just weird. They lose control of the kick. Basically, what they're doing is they're just throwing the legs up. They're just going, okay, let's see if this sucker gets up there. They throw a kick up, boom, and they throw it up without control of the foot. And that's what these fighters need to do. They need to really get into learning how to kick with precision and control. So they're controlling the foot, not just throwing it up, hoping it'll hit. Even though I've seen some of these guys, when they throw it and they hit with the shin, and that shin, man, I've seen some knockouts with the shin kick. Because the shin's, I mean, it's a hard bone when it hits the head. But they need to really work on these kicks more, and they, instead of just throwing the legs out. Because it looks sloppy, and it's just, it's like, come on, man, if you're going to throw a kick, throw a damn kick the way a kick's supposed to be thrown. Don't just throw it up there thinking, oh, let me just hope it gets out there. And sometimes they're lucky, but you want to be in control of your body. Don't don't just leave it for chance and say, well, I'm just going to throw this out there.
Back to the Pettis thing and the sports psychologist. What are your guys' opinions on that and the mind and the state your mind needs to be in before a fight, and how much of fighting is mind over the physical body?
Yeah, it's everything. The mind is everything. That's your greatest weapon. Yeah, your greatest weapon. And I think it's amazing that he sees a sports psychologist. Shoot, I wish back in the day there was an opportunity for me to see a sports psychologist. Yeah, I didn't get into meditation and everything until later on in life. But the mind is everything. I mean, I know you'll agree with me, Manny. Yeah. It's the control the focus of your mind, and you control your life. And the mind is your biggest weapon by far.
100%. It's the mind. Yeah, your mind controls what you do. Like, I mean, if you don't have the proper mind, you can't execute. They had a psychologist when we went to the Olympics. They had a psychologist working with the Olympic team and with Lennox Lewis and myself and stuff, and he got us all to come with a cue word. They called it a cue word. So I forget. I think my cue word was just jab. Like, so as soon as my mind went to jab, then I knew I had to get the jab going, right? So to get you back to where you want to be, if you feel like you're losing it, or you feel like you're not in control, just go think about your cue word, and that will get you back into the feeling of because we did meditation and stuff, Jerry, and then it would get you back into that feeling of when you see a perfect jab, right? So just think of that word, so the words will translate to a feeling of your body. So I remember working on that quite a bit, and it can help.
Yeah, I saw the Lomachenko. I saw the documentary where he was doing these brain training exercises.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And also like memorizing words and everything, right?
Oh, that's amazing. Letters? That's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But yet this is a sport where you beat the out of the mind.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Contradictive, eh?
Yeah. I mean, and it's strange because I watch these fights and I feel bad for these guys that are getting the shit kicked out of them and just getting pummeled in the brain.
I know.
And I mean, the worst case that I've ever seen in my life, a pugilistic dementia from being beaten in the brain so many times, is Jerry Quarry. Oh my God. We went up to see him and he was so messed up, and I felt so bad for him.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than brain injury, because the people, you can't even control the way you walk because you're like on your heels, and it's really, it's very sad. But and it affects everyone differently, because I know guys that took a lot of shots when they're competing and they're perfectly fine now, and there's other guys that barely took a punch and they're all messed up today, right? But it could be other things too. It could be drugs and alcohol, possibly. We don't know what everyone's doing behind closed doors, but I truly do believe that the blows you take, it affects everyone differently, and it's proven in hockey, football, and everything else. There's guys that weren't necessarily grinders that, just, what was the guy's name? That was a big guy. Paul Correa suffered a couple of serious concussions, and he kept coming back, and he was okay. But then there's a guy that played for Philadelphia Flyers that was a big guy.
Eric Lindros.
And Eric Lindros, yeah, and he took 2 or 3 concussions, and he was done, right? Like he couldn't play anymore, and so it affects everyone differently. And I'm like you, Jerry. When I see guys taking shots, like watching Caleb Smith today, and the 10th, 11th, and 12th round, I was cringing, right? But the guy did show a lot of heart because he was throwing back as well. So got to give him credit.
I mean, look,
he's tough.
Look at what happened with Mancini. Mancini was the first death in boxing, wasn't it?
The first on live TV, because it was on ABC Wild World of Sports when Dooku Kim got knocked out by Ray Mancini in the 14th round.
And wasn't it soon after that, like a few years after that, where they went from 15 rounds to 12 rounds? Wow.
That's one of the impetus to start that. Yeah.
Why don't they knock another 2 off and go 10 rounds? I'm all for that. I mean, you'll see a better, harder fight. I don't know. It's I don't know. These sports, boxing and MMA is the only fighting sports is the only sports where you're actually getting in there and you're trying to kill the other guy. You're trying to really fuck him up, and in football and everything else. You're not trying to get in there. You're not going into a football, playing football and playing hockey going, I'm going to try to knock the shit out of somebody and knock somebody unconscious. It's brutal.
Yeah.
It's like,
but a lot of players do think that way too. Not so much in today's, but back in the 80s and 90s, they would think that I'm going to nail that guy into the boards and give it to him, and those concussions are just as bad as getting hit, because it's the velocity of the brain smashing up against the skull. So when you go against the boards, your brain keeps going, so it gets as much damage as getting a shot to the head. But and those football players, back when they allowed them to go head to head, like they're spearing each other with their helmets, man, and that was crazy. Thank God, they're trying to make it better, right? So that now you can't do that in football, but there's still a lot of injuries in rugby too when they're doing in that scrum and they're banging up against each other, and I mean it's sort of what it is. But you're right, boxing is the only sport that the objective of the game is to knock the other man or the other lady out, your opponent out, whereas every other sport, the objective isn't to knock your opponent out. It's to score a goal or get a touchdown or whatever, right?
All right, that's a wrap.
I'm Jerry Trimble.
I'm Manny Sobral.
And that's 2 World Champs.